Welcome to this special live edition of iTalk here on Euronews, produced in cooperation with Google plus Hangout. This time last year, Europe was in crisis. The President of the European Commission answered your questions here on iTalk. 1 year on, Europe is still in crisis. You still have questions.
President Barroso, 22% of young people in the EU are unemployed, and the youth unemployment rate is over 50% in Greece and Spain. The Commission made positive steps to work on quality internships and a youth guarantee. However, there has been less focus on precarious jobs. What will the EU do to ensure young people can find quality and stable work? And will the EU stand up for the employment and social rights of young people in this area of austerity?
Yes, that is one of our priorities, is precisely the problem of employment and specifically youth employment. The best way to have sustainable employment and not precarious employment is precisely our countries to stimulate growth. And growth can come with confidence and also with the structural reforms that give our countries competitiveness. That is why to solve the issue of euro area confidence is so important, because only then we'll have necessary investment. And also some of our countries, and Greece is indeed one of the important examples, need to reinforce their competitiveness. Now, apart from that, there are some specific programs the European Union is working. Yes, we have created a youth guarantee. Yes, we have now, with some of our governments, 8 countries indeed, made a redeployment of the structural funds so to promote youth employment, especially in SMEs. But the critical issue is how we can reform the euro area and our economies so that they can become more attractive in terms also of investment and new employment.
So we're back on message with growth. Isn't it a bit difficult, though, to have confidence when we change the message? I mean, since you were here last time, because of President Hollande, we're all talking about growth now. It seems to be part of the new message.
No, I'm sorry, but even before President Hollande, we had our European agenda, Europe 2020, for growth, sustainable, inclusive growth. It is true that because of the crisis and because of the urgency of the crisis in the financial sector, we have been discussing more this kind of emergency measures. But our goal was and remains growth, I mean sustainable growth.
OK, we now have a written question. This is from a Mosca fly, who was Portuguese, from Funchal. The question, I'll give you the English version. We are coming to the end of another year of economic crisis, and the formula that was imposed on countries needing help has clearly not worked. What will you do to change this situation and to prevent more countries from falling into the trap of recession?
Look, first of all, nobody is imposing solutions in the countries. I want to make this clear. When the European Commission makes a program or discusses a program, it is with the agreement of the country, and at the end, it is the countries themselves, all the euro area countries, that have to approve it. So we make the assessment, and afterwards we make some proposals. But the decisions are taken by the countries themselves.
The creation of the euro has generated a crisis in confidence which perhaps wouldn't have been there otherwise.
No, I don't agree. I'm sorry. To give you an example, the country that has mobilized more taxpayers' money so far in Europe has been Britain, by far. So there is a crisis in the financial sector there. The government, the taxpayers, had to intervene massively, and Britain is not in the euro area. Or Iceland. Basically, there was a failure of Iceland, and they are not even members of the European Union. So it is true that we have specific challenges in the euro because we were not prepared institutionally with all the instruments to face the situation, but it is not true that it was the euro that created the crisis. This is why, responding to the question, I have to say that our program, prepared with the countries and not imposed on them, is, I believe, smart enough, and thus there is the flexibility sufficient to adapt them to the current conditions so that we can, of course, as much as possible, make them effective and not make them as painful as they are.
Good evening from Dublin. President Barroso, what next for Greece now? The austerity measures have brought the country to its knees, both socially and financially. Are we anywhere near the end of the tunnel? You spoke about growth stimulus. What would that involve? Would we see new industries, new factories? How can we deal with the unemployment? We can deal with salary cuts as long as you have jobs. Thank you.
Look, first of all, it's important to understand why Greece came to this situation. It was not because of the European Union. Greece came to this situation because of unsustainable debt and deficits accumulated over the years. And so, in fact, the European Union, what is giving is an opportunity to Greece to avoid default. Now, I understand that some of these adjustments are extremely painful, and in fact, the Greek people have been making a huge effort. Sometimes people underestimate the great efforts made in terms, for instance, of salaries and other matters. Now, I believe that it is critically important for Greece and also for the euro area that Greece remains in the euro area, so that this new program is, these new measures are adopted as soon as possible, and that we are at the same time working proactively, for instance, with the utilization of all the funds, also with the promotion of some of the reforms for Greek competitiveness, so that Greece restores confidence. This is critically important because only with this confidence we will be able to create sustainable jobs for the young people, and not only for the young people.
How concerned are you about the surge in nationalism? How will it impact on the European Union as it is?
I think that what usually is called nationalism, so the extreme, let's say, attachment to a country against the others, these chauvinist attitudes is negative. And we have seen in the history of Europe what nationalism could create. We had two awful wars, the so-called two world wars, were here in Europe in the 20th century, not many years ago. So extreme nationalism, like xenophobia, like racism, like extreme populism, this is negative. Now, this is precisely why we need to combine what we can consider a positive thing, it's patriotism, the love of our country, with the citizenship of Europe. And it's why I think it is important that the leaders, also at national level, not only at European level, explain this, because I think a majority of our people don't want those extremist forces from the extreme populisms or nationalists to win. I think most of the citizens are proud of their countries, but at the same time they understand that the European Union is something that adds value, that helps them defend their values and their interests.
We had a lot of questions on this next subject. Sarah is Italian. She lives in Brussels. She sent in a video. This is her question.
Bonjour, c'est Sarah. Je suis italienne, mais j'habite à Bruxelles. Et j'aimerais demander au président Barroso s'il pense que l'élection directe du président de la Commission pourrait aider à rapprocher les citoyens européens des institutions. Et dans ce cas, quel devrait être le rôle des partis européens? Merci.
So, I think a direct election will be good. It's not possible according to the current treaties. That is why I've proposed in my State of the Union speech recently in the European Parliament that even before that change, the political parties present their candidates to the elections in 2014, that there is a platform, and so that we have an election that is not as it has been very much in the past. European elections, but in fact with 27 different national campaigns, but we have also a European campaign.
What will you do to stop the next ACTA from being enforced upon us when us European citizens have clearly spoken out against this?
ACTA, the anti-counterfeit trading agreement, which is very controversial. Intellectual rights, are we going to have internet censored? Are we going to be able to download music and so forth?
This is really a very interesting debate and a very difficult issue. All the governments of Europe asked us to conclude ACTA. ACTA because it is important to protect intellectual property rights, because our prosperity is based on innovation, and without defense of proper intellectual property rights, it's difficult to have this kind of innovation. So our intention was never, and this will never be, to restrict in any way the freedom of expression. For me, freedom of expression, media freedom is a sacred right. It's one of the most important issues, by the way, we have in Europe, and there is not in many parts of the world. Having said this, when there were doubts about this, we sent the ACTA to the European Court of Justice to analyze the situation, and this is the situation we are now in. And I believe a true political debate about this. How can we promote at the same time freedom in the internet, not restrict, but at the same time guarantee for the creators, for the artists, for the writers, the right also to be their intellectual rights respected. I think it's a very important debate.
When you see Americans, they hold their hand to their heart. They're very proud to be American. What must we do so that Europeans feel proud once again to be European? We don't at the moment. We're just aware of the crisis elements. How can we make Europeans feel pride when they hear the European anthem, for example? And you have 30 seconds to tell us.
Look, I think it's important to reinforce the emotion connection to Europe, but this cannot be done artificially. This is why I think it is important to explain and to discuss the issues in a democratic way. I'm proud to be European because we have in this continent some of the most decent societies in the world. We should be proud of our democracy, about our social market economy. We should also be humble, avoid any kind of arrogance. I don't like this kind of to be proud because we are better than others. But I think through debate, through democracy, we can be proud of being Europeans without now making a kind of a decree to be proud to be Europeans, because we have more reasons to be proud than to be, let's say, frustrated by our Europe.